International News.
Former head of state General Gawan describes anti-corruption policy of government as inevitable for national salvation. Strike at the root cause of violent extremism. U.S. Secretary of State tasked Nigerian government on fight against terrorism. Revised edition of National Counter-Terrorism Strategy launched as President Buhari commits to fight acts inimical to humanity. And federal government vows to drive Nigerian projects to enviable heights through information communications technology. Hello there, it's good to have you join us on the news on NTA International. I am Segun Lawole. The former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, has thrown his weight behind the renewed onslaught against corruption by the Buhari administration, describing it as inevitable for national salvation. General Gowon, who said this during a chat with newsmen after a closed-door meeting with President Buhari, also applauded government efforts at addressing the problems of security and economy. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The U.S. Secretary of State attributed the root causes of violent extremism, especially in African countries, to lack of trust between the government and the governed, poverty and corruption. He emphasized the need for government at all levels to collaborate with community leaders and
President Muhammadu Buhari, for the first time since October last year, arrived at the State House at about 2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon.
I was expecting you there. How are you? And I love you. Nice to see you. You're looking well.
The closed-door meeting between President Muhammadu Buhari and the former head of state, which lasted about 1 hour, centered on the general affairs of the country and the best way forward. General Gowon told newsmen after the meeting that President Muhammadu Buhari is doing his best for Nigeria under the present circumstances.
One appreciates his effort and determination to rid the country of corruption, which certainly had been one of the problems that has created serious setback to the country, both nationally and internationally.
The former head of state, who also acknowledged the hardship being faced by Nigerians, expressed confidence in the ability of the federal government to restore smiles on their faces.
People want to see that they have money, but please remember, we used to get petroleum at what price? Over $150 per barrel. Am I right? And what is it today? It's just around 30s, isn't it? And the amount of crude oil that we used to produce, over 2 million, 2.5. Now, in fact, it's down to under 1 million because of the problem we've been having, blowing up of all these areas, etc. So yes, we have problem, and there isn't enough money to be able to go around. But I'm sure with the effort the government is making, all will go well soon.
On the plight of the missing Chibok schoolgirls, General Gowon pleaded for understanding, saying the government is doing everything within its power towards rescuing and reuniting them with their families.
The government is certainly determined to make sure that these girls are brought back home as soon as possible, as long as certain credibility can be established. We do not yet know exactly where they are, but all effort engaging the international media and international sources so that we can, so that this matter can be dealt with.
The former head of state is proceeding on holidays to the United Kingdom and the United States, during which his project, the Nigeria Praise Program, will be held. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
A sincere apology for the mix-up in the beginning of that report. The U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has expressed commitments of America and other world powers to collaborate with Nigeria in checking the violent extremism of Boko Haram, which he said is destroying various groups in the country. Mr. Kerry stated this when he paid a visit to the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar III in Sokoto. Ilyasu Ali Yakub reports.
The U.S. Secretary of State attributed the root causes of violent extremism, especially in African countries, to lack of trust between the government and the governed, poverty and corruption. He emphasized the need for government at all levels to collaborate with community leaders and faith-based organizations in the fight against the scourge. Mr. Kerry also commended President Buhari for the commitment in the fight against corruption and Boko Haram extremism.
Extremism cannot be defeated through repression or just creating fear. Fear instilled through repression invites not confidence, it invites contempt. It creates terrorists. Trust creates citizens.
The Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, thanked Mr. Kerry for the solidarity visit and said corruption and Boko Haram extremism have been reduced to the barest minimum by President Muhammadu Buhari.
I believe this will further strengthen our resolve at all levels, from Mr. President down to the last administrator in this country.
The visit by the American Secretary of State is part of a collaborative effort by the American government to reduce to the minimum terrorism in Nigeria. In Abuja, Ilyasu Aliakubu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari warmly felicitates with the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III, on his 60th birthday in August 24, 2016. President Buhari joins the people and government of Sokoto State, the Muslim community and family members of the Sultan in celebrating the unique anniversary. As the head of Jamaatul Nasrul Islam and the President General of the Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, the President affirms that the Sultan has demonstrated uncommon leadership style, patriotism and wisdom in his consistent advocacy for security, peace and unity of Nigeria. President Buhari believes that the wise counsel and support of the royal father on issues of good governance, girl child education, infant and child mortality, and agriculture has greatly enriched his administration's efforts to improve the livelihood of Nigerians. A statement from the special advisor to the president, media and publicity, Femi Adesina, says the president prays that Almighty Allah will grant the Sultan good health and long life to continue in the service of humanity. The federal government has launched a revised edition of the National Counter-Terrorism Strategy. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that President Muhammadu Buhari at the launch reiterated his commitment in the fight against terrorism, stating that terrorism is an act against humanity and the tenets of unity which the nation upholds.
The president, who was represented by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, further mentioned that terrorism cannot be justified with race, religion, or political affinities, that the indiscriminate killings of people and the incessant destruction of properties will never be excused under his government. He further enjoined Nigerians to utilize the reviewed National Counter-Terrorism Strategy for the fervent and effective fight against terrorism in the country for peace and security.
The government is determined to ensure that the safety and security of every single Nigerian is a priority. This is why I have repeatedly ordered our law enforcement agents to ensure that perpetrators of violence in any shape or form are arrested and made to face the law. The activities of armed herdsmen and horse farmers, kidnappers, and criminal militants all threaten our peace and security and the stability of our nation. We will not allow anyone, under any guise, whether it is politics, culture, or religion, to violate the physical person, lives, property of other citizens. This is the oath to which I swore, and I will uphold it at all costs.
The National Security Advisor, Major General Babagana Mungunu, retired, who commended the president for his unwavering commitment to ending terrorism in the country, says his office will ensure synergy amongst stakeholders as they provide a monitoring and evaluation framework to appraise the process.
We have worked assiduously with all stakeholders to re-articulate the roles of ministries, departments, and agencies, and civil society.
The strategy forms the basis for a concrete plan of actions based on the 5 streams to foster conditions conducive to the spread of terrorism by preventing people becoming terrorists or supporting terrorism.
The moment we have the commitment and the political will to key in to the strategy, I think it will succeed because we represent the population areas of Nigeria.
As we have been told here by the Vice President, keeping Nigerians safe is a task that must be done by every one of us. In Abuja, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
And still on security-related matters, the Nigerian Army has identified discipline, regimentation, and professionalism as key towards attaining a professionally responsive army. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, identified these components as pivotal towards achieving his vision of repositioning the Nigerian Army at the 2016 Regimented Sergeant Majors Convention in Abuja. Lajide Bello reports.
The Nigerian Army's engagement in internal security, counter-terrorism as well as counter-insurgency operations at various strata within the country has tasked the capacity and resilience of the military. Against this background, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai, says to correct some operational flaws in military operations, there is the need for training and retraining of its personnel.
Discipline, regimentation, and professionalism. I am convinced that the attainment of these 3 focal points will redirect the Nigerian Army towards a more responsive.
Lieutenant General Buratai added that troops' welfare will continue to receive adequate attention, reiterating President Muhammadu Buhari's continued support for the Nigerian Army in its resolve at restoring peace in the Northeast. Director General, Nigerian Army Resource Center, Major General Johnny Hamakim, noted that the convention focuses on regimentation as the bedrock of military discipline and professional responsiveness.
Competence, discipline, and regimentation in units and formations within the Nigerian Army will be enhanced among troops.
In Abuja, Olajide Bello, NTA News.
Away from security matters, the federal government says it will continue to deploy information communications technology to drive the Nigerian project to an enviable height. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir David Lawal, said this Tuesday at the signing of Memorandum of Understanding between the federal government and a Chinese company in Nigeria. Dele Atubi reports.
The Memorandum of Understanding between the federal government and Huawei Technology is to advance the course of information communications technology knowledge transfer between Nigeria and China. To this end, in the next few weeks, a group of young, talented Nigerians who are professionals in ICT and employees of the federal government will be in China for a 2-week training program at no cost to the government. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Babachir David Lawal, acknowledged the deployment of ICT skills as a major contributor to the successes the federal government recorded in its fight against corruption, insecurity, and insurgency.
The government is very, very keen in developing ICT skills and expertise among its workers and indeed among the citizenry at large.
The head of the Chinese mission to Nigeria, Qin Jian, and the managing director of Huawei Technology, Li Teng, said the program seeks to develop local ICT talents, promotes a greater understanding in the telecommunications sector, and encourages regional building and participation in digital community.
This is the first time we have organized Nigerian officials to take part in this program.
The program is to further strengthen the diplomatic ties between Nigeria and China. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
In other development, with information communications technology being the language of new generation, the National Information Development Agency, NITDA, has donated a Knowledge Access Center to the National Youth Service Corps, NYC, in Abuja. Lainka Ujo reports that the Acting Director General NITDA, Dr. Vincent Olatoji, assured the NYC that similar ICT infrastructure will be deployed to the 36 NYC state secretariats. in the next 3 months.
The world of technology is fast changing, and every organization must move quickly to keep abreast of the trends to sustain its relevance. Handing over the Knowledge Access Center to the NYSC, Acting Director General NIDA Dr. Vincent Olatunji said, there's need to aid youth corps members' ability in teaching, learning, and research works. Dr. Olatunji added that the agency wants to raise software developers and software managers through the development of ICT in Nigeria.
In less than 3 weeks, the President himself will be meeting with Nigerian youth who are in this sector. We are trying to build an ecosystem of ICT generation that will really contribute to the development of this country.
Director General NYSC, Brigadier General Sule Kazauri, lauded NIDA for its magnanimity in partnering with the scheme to empower youth corps members through the use of ICT.
We in the NYSC, we always guarantee fair use and maintenance of such facilities.
We are ready to sustain it.
In Abuja, Olayinka Ojo, NTA News.
Nigerians have been advised to support the present administration's developmental strides, especially on policies that are geared towards the development of youth and women. The National Coordinator, Friends of Buhari Organization, Athanasius Okon, gave the advice in Abuja when the group visited the National Council of Women's Societies. Basi Taikbank reports.
The national coordinator of the group urged Nigerians to be patient with the government, stressing that President Buhari has the political will to guarantee the needed good governance. He said, realizing the role of women in national development, they decided to seek the collaboration of NCWAs in the growth of the nation.
It's a support group. Our emphasis is how to see how Nigeria can be better. And we have to. Doing this, we need to get credible partnership with organizations, institutions that have been established. And we have found women to be very essential in this project and this campaign of nation building.
NCWS president expressed readiness to collaborate with the group, stressing that what is most important is that the nation develops and remains an indivisible entity.
We can collaborate with anybody for the betterment of Nigerian women as long as we have the same goal.
Friends of Buhari organization promotes the principles and ideals of President Buhari, especially in fighting corruption, indiscipline, lack of transparency and accountability in governance. In Abuja, Basi Taikbank, NTA News.
This is the News on NTA International, reaching you from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. There'll be more news after the break. Do stay with us.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
Thanks for joining us again. Reports reaching us indicate that President Muhammadu Buhari has pledged that the anti-corruption crusade in the country will be deepened and institutionalized to last beyond the life of the current administration. Receiving American Secretary of State John Kerry at an audience in the State House, Abuja, Tuesday, the president appreciated the intervention of the U.S. before the 2015 polls, demanding free and fair elections in Nigeria, saying America did not do it because of what it stands to benefit from Nigeria, but for the Nigerian people. On the Boko Haram insurgency, President Buhari thanked the U.S. for both hard and soft military help, saying the training and intelligence that Nigeria could not muster received adding training has made Boko Haram less of a threat to Nigeria and the Lake Chad Basin region. President Buhari said though militancy in the Niger Delta has impacted negatively on the economy and affected the positive intentions of the international and local investors, government was showing restraint not to use real force except when constrained to do so. On the economy, the president assured that the focus of his administration is on the diversification of the economy, having learned lessons from the years of overdependence on oil. In his remarks, Mr. Kerry commended the courage of President Buhari in the fighting corruption, pledging the U.S. readiness to assist in tackling the humanitarian challenges in the Northeast. The Technical Audit Committee on Projects of the Ministry of Niger Delta has advocated the blacklisting of contractors that executed shoddy work in the 9 states of the Niger Delta region. The committee also wants those that failed to execute projects to refund money. Joseph Orok reports that this was at the formal presentation of the committee's report to the Minister of Niger Delta in Abuja.
In April this year, the ministry decided to review the quality and quantity of projects executed in the last 70 years, following what is seen as abysmal performance of contractors on few projects inspected. The committee observed lack of due process and award of contracts to incompetent or non-existing contractors and advocates the introduction of effective pricing units, monitoring and evaluation of projects to guide against corrupt practice.
The ministry should concentrate and finish this litany of abandoned projects. About 90% of the projects awarded by the previous government is not completed.
It is a working document for us. One, it enables us now to ascertain the claims made by contractors in respect of other payments. Two, it guides us in making projections for sectoral allocations and proposals for appropriation for other budgets. Three, it enables us to know where excesses were incurred so government can recover.
The projects audited were estimated at about 700 billion naira across the 9 Niger Delta states, although about 14 billion naira was disbursed. Joseph Orok, NTA News.
The federal government says it will sustain partnership with multinational and development agencies towards delivering on the power needs of Nigeria. Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatude Raji Fashola, gave the assurance while commissioning Phase 1 of a clean energy solar electricity generation system at the Lower Usuma Dam water treatment plant in Abuja. Omenioden reports.
The project, funded by Japan International Cooperation Agency, is on an installed capacity of 1.2 megawatts to supplement electricity supply at the Federal Capital Territory Water Board treatment plant. The expected value from the project is a total of 1,496 megawatts annually, 741.9 tons reduction in carbon dioxide annually, and 31.5 million naira to be saved annually in payment of electricity bills by the FCT Water Board.
If you came here last year, all you would have seen here were just the planes. So it's a lot of work that have gone on between last year and now to put on the photovoltaic panels. We hope that some of these will ultimately be assembled in Nigeria so that we don't import them anymore. We're talking to a few people. So we expect to see more of this.
While assuring that there will be continuity of the projects initiated by past administrations, the minister assured that there will be no going back on incremental power plan to steady supply with an ultimate uninterrupted power supply in Nigeria. For the Japanese International Cooperation Agency and the Japanese government, inclusive growth through power generation as well as collaboration with Nigeria in the area of climate change remains a priority.
Improving core infrastructure is one of the priority areas of JICA programs in Nigeria.
This project doesn't require maintenance. This is a PV panel. Right? The setup cost may be huge, but over a period of 5, thereabout break-even years, it pays for itself.
The 1.2 megawatt solar power plant for now is the largest grid-connected solar system in Nigeria. Omenioden, NTA News.
Our stories from the financial sector is next with Muplam Dakok.
Thanks for joining us on this segment.
The Central Bank of Nigeria is currently conducting another liquidity ratio and capital adequacy test on deposit banks, otherwise known as commercial banks, to determine the stress level of the banks. The CBN has also ordered banks to allocate 60% of their total foreign exchange purchases from all sources to manufacturers and 40% to other users for the purpose of trade and other obligations. And elsewhere, Zambia's struggling economy is forecast to pick up next year as copper prices recover and inflation slows sharply, moving the central bank of that country to cut interest rates. Growth of copper is expected to slow to 3.2% this year compared with 3.6% last year, while inflation, which averaged 18.5% this year, is expected to slow to 12.9% next year. To end this segment, let's take a look at activities on the floor of the Nigerian stock market. That's all we can take on business news. I am Muplang Dakok.
Up next is Wednesday's weather prospect in Nigeria and some world cities. And before we go, let's take a look at top stories once again. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has expressed commitment of America and other world powers to collaborate with Nigeria in checking violent extremism, Boko Haram. He said this when he paid a visit to the Sultan of Sokoto, Muhammad Saad Abubakar III. He also told you that the federal government has launched a revised edition of the National Counter-Terrorism Strategy. And that's today's on NTA International. Thanks for watching. I am Shegun Lawale.